Joining me now here on set is our diplomatic correspondent, Mike Wagenheim. Mike, a lot to break down in Israeli politics today. Talk to me about Yair Lapid. He won't be the next prime minister. What's the new updates there?
It was no real surprise when you think about the logic of this. If the Blue and White Party and Likud are to form a unity government, there's only two prime ministers that can rotate, really. You can't have three prime ministers in a 4-year period, if that. So this was kind of known from the get-go. This was more of the Blue and White Party, and specifically Yair Lapid, trying to apply more pressure to Benjamin Netanyahu, saying, listen, we're doing all these things to try to make this work. You, Benjamin Netanyahu, are the only guy standing in the way. I, Yair Lapid, have done my statesman-like part. I'm stepping aside, giving up my hopes, giving up my personal ambitions, my dreams. What about you? That's all this really comes down to. It was no big surprise Yair Lapid wasn't going to be a prime minister in the next Knesset.
And Benjamin Netanyahu, of course, speaking to the Knesset today, once again, pretty much doing everything in his power to avoid a third election. What does the public think about this? I mean, are they trusting that this third election won't happen, or is it kind of doubtful right now?
The Israeli public doesn't have a whole lot of faith in the Israeli political system, and not only the system, but the politicians at the helm of that system. So the public right now is watching this certainly with concern that we're going to go to a third election. I personally don't think, though, that it's going to come to that. There's going to be pressure applied to both sides, and somebody somewhere is going to have to back down off their demands and make this work. It might take a novel idea. It's going to take a whole lot of political spin, but I don't think either party is going, either of the two big parties are going to gain anything by going to a third election.
And let's talk about Benny Gantz. I mean, he met with Netanyahu a couple times already, and he has a lot to say about the prime minister's call for action. Let's just dive into that.
Benny Gantz is basically saying, listen, it's past time for action at this point. It's past time for anything except for you to step aside. This has been Gantz's signature phrase through the last two election cycles. And when we talk about cycles, we mean a couple of months, April and September, the last two elections. Benny Gantz has said, thank you, Prime Minister, for your service. It's time for somebody else to lead the way. And his bulldog, Yair Lapid, has been ramming it down everybody's throats that a prime minister cannot serve while under the cloud of indictments, not just indictments themselves, which haven't been handed down yet, but the cloud, the suspicion, the allegations. He can't serve the country while trying to fend off his legal troubles as well. So even though Netanyahu and his Likud party floated the idea today of maybe saying that if Netanyahu is indicted, he'll temporarily step aside as prime minister in order to step into the courtroom, Gantz is still saying, no, it doesn't work. You just can't serve, period, with these allegations around you. Gantz is unrelenting in that stance.
And going off that as well, really quickly, there's a lot of thought that Netanyahu's party might just abandon him. I mean, what's the thought process there?
Well, it's been floating out there for a while that if it comes down to whether to continue to bow down to Netanyahu or to go to third elections, which could damage the party, that Netanyahu's leadership would in fact collapse and the rest of the Likud party would look to the future and oust Netanyahu. Netanyahu putting that idea to the test today, floating the idea of a leadership election for the party helm. Gideon Sa'ar, his intra-party rival, was the only one to reply, I'm ready. He tweeted literally, I'm ready. Sa'ar ready to challenge Netanyahu. But several hours later, the Likud party as a whole backed down off that idea because looking ahead, when would the Likud primaries be? They'd be in November. And what could happen in November? Indictments. Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit, the hearings are going on right now, but likely his decision is to come sometime in the next month. Can you imagine Netanyahu while trying to say, put your faith in me the day they hand down indictments? Not a good look, not a good optic, and it could lose him the leadership or at least the faith of a lot of card-carrying members of the Likud party. They realize it's not the best idea at the moment.
Oh, man, a lot of moving parts there. Mike Wagenheim, our diplomatic correspondent, thank you.